Okay, first things first, I know what some of you may be thinking. That title is outrageous, but just hear me out for a second. 5 Premier League trophies, 1 FA Cup, 3 League Cups, 1 Champions League, the highest number of goals for both England and Manchester United, the second most goals in Premier League history, the third most assists in Premier League history, the most goals scored in the Champions League by an Englishman, and the 23rd highest scorer overall in the competition, and perhaps the most legendary Twitter account of all time. These are only some of the accomplishments of the incomparable Wayne Rooney over his illustrious playing career. In addition to that, as a testament to his overall versatility, he played as a striker, his preferred position, a winger, a 10, even a 6 at varying points in his career. Although, despite all the achievements I listed before, if you ask someone who the best strikers were in the Premier League era, many might not even list him in their top 5 ahead of some of these guys listed here. The same goes for just about all the other positions that he played in too. In addition to that, as recently as 2015, we had news outlets like The Telegraph putting Rooney at number 14 on their list of most overrated players of all time. But why is that? Is Wayne Rooney's career, dare I say it, underrated? Is there something I'm missing? Well, if there is, we're going to get to the bottom of it in this video. So with that being said, in addition to my previous questions, how good was Wayne Rooney really? And of course, is he underrated? Yo, what's up everyone? Trust you're all doing well and having a great day. Today we've got a special one coming up. We're going to be looking at the career of one of the greatest players to grace the footballing world in the past few decades, the main man himself, Wayne Rooney. Also, I just got off the phone with Rooney himself. He says if you like and subscribe, he'll consider not putting you to sleep in 10 seconds. I'd strongly consider listening to him. Anyway, let's get right into it. Born in Liverpool in 1985, Wayne Rooney was quite simply born to compete. His family was filled with avid sportsmen, with Wayne, of course, being no exception. His sports of choice? Boxing and football. He took up both boxing and football from a young age, and in his own words, he even used to go straight to the boxing gym after football training. In terms of football, however, this guy was insane in his youth. A physical beast by just about all accounts. Of course, this was partially thanks to his love for boxing, but there was certainly more to it than that. He was a technical genius too. A player so good that his youth coaches found it difficult to coach him due to his raw talent. Perhaps one of the best quotes that encapsulates his dominance in his youth came from one of his coaches, Tim O'Keefe, in 2002. When talking about Rooney's ability in his youth, he went on to state, "He was once running through the middle with only the centre half to beat and teammates wide on either side. Me and the other coaches were telling him to give it wide and his dad was telling him to take on the defender. Instead, he ignored us all and just looked up and hit it in from 35 yards. Then he looked over at us and shrugged his shoulders before giving that big smile of his." After scoring quite literally hundreds of goals at youth level before the age of 9, he was scouted by Everton and joined their youth academy. Over the next 6 years, Rooney rapidly progressed through the club's youth ranks and eventually played with the under-19s as a 15-year-old. He was almost exclusively deployed as a striker during this time period, but he possessed great vision, passing ability and control. And for a stocky guy, he had a very decent turn of pace about him, a truly special talent. In this time frame, he was also forced to choose between boxing and football, opting for the latter, as we all know. However, he kept his physical attributes and the general mean streak that he developed as a boxer and simply transferred it over to football. Fast forward to 1 year in the future, and the year is 2002. A 16-year-old Rooney had already been inducted into the Everton first team. He made his debut in a League Cup match against Tottenham Hotspur and even managed to get an assist in the game as it ended in a 2-2 draw. However, what's ironic about this match in particular is the fact that the Spurs fans were booing him and chanting "Who are you?" every time he touched the ball. And, well, let's just say that those words aged like milk, because only a couple months later,
remember the name, Wayne Rooney!
That's right. He scored his first ever Premier League goal, an absolute belter might I add, against Arsenal in late 2002. This was the second goal in a 2-1 win against the Gunners. Not only did this goal end Arsenal's 30-game unbeaten streak at the time, but it also made Rooney the youngest ever goal scorer in Premier League history, scoring only 5 days before his 17th birthday. In the eyes of the world, rightly so, a star was born. And only 2 years following this performance, in 2004, Rooney became a Manchester United player at 18 years of age. This was after United signed him for £27 million, making him the most expensive teenager in the history of football. In his first 2 years of professional football at Everton, he had made 67 appearances, scoring 17 goals. Despite his price tag, and the skepticism that was attributed with shelling out that much money for a teenager, Rooney was surely a shrewd purchase at the time. After all, this guy was the real deal. Not only did he have an incredibly bright future ahead of him, but at the time that he signed for United, he had already made his debut for the English national team. In fact, he was arguably England's best player at the 2004 UEFA Euros, scoring 4 goals in the 4 games that he played in and being named in the team of the tournament. Unfortunately, England were eliminated by Portugal on penalties in the quarterfinals. Regardless, based on his performances in this tournament, Rooney was officially England's salvation. He was the chosen one to lead England towards the silverware that they'd been missing out on for so many years prior. Keep that in mind going forward in this story. Just before we move on, although this has little to do with Rooney as a player and what he achieved, I felt compelled to draw some parallels between Wayne Rooney and Paul Gascoigne, just out of interest. In my last video, we took a deep dive into the craziness that is Paul Gascoigne, an incredibly talented and complex footballer who ultimately failed to reach his potential for one reason or another. I also mentioned that both Rooney and Gascoigne were very arguably the most naturally talented English footballers of their respective generations. At this point, it's common knowledge that one of Wayne Rooney's nicknames, courtesy of the British media, Wazza, was a derivative of Gascoigne's nickname, Gazza. The reasoning for this was simple. After all, they did share a fair few characteristics. They were both incredibly naturally talented, both had stocky, less traditionally athletic builds, both had mean streaks in their early lives and teenage years, and were both heralded as the poster boys for the England national team from a very young age. However, for the most part, that's where the similarities end. Where the case of Gascoigne is indicative of a player that failed to live up to the hype, the case of Rooney paints a rather different picture, which is exactly what someone would say if they simply took a look at the differences in trophies and personal accolades between the two. Now, of course, football is about more than just stats and awards, but I'm sure you get what I'm trying to say. Okay, we're done with the Paul Gascoigne parallels, but speaking specifically about his achievements and its accolades, many still believe that Rooney underachieved in his career. And if I'm honest, I'd have to agree. Relatively speaking, of course. And you may be asking, relative to what? I'm glad you asked. At the time that Rooney signed for Manchester United, they were in the middle of a rebuild. Several young and experienced players alike were being brought in to help bring silverware back to Old Trafford. And as we all know, one of these young players was Cristiano Ronaldo. Coincidentally, both of them happened to be the same age and were both forward players. And just in case anyone forgot, at the time, Rooney was far and away considered to be the better player of the two with a much higher ceiling. And in case you don't believe me, this was exemplified through the fact that Rooney won the Premier League Young Player of the Season award twice in a row in his first 2 seasons at United. Remember that Ronaldo played for the same team. After scoring a hat-trick on his debut with the club in the Champions League against Fenerbahce, he went on to score 27 goals in 65 appearances and made 11 assists in the 2004-05 and the 2005-06 season. The hype was very real for Rooney indeed. In contrast, Ronaldo scored 14 goals and assisted 10 in 66 appearances in the same time period. Still some very solid numbers for a teenager, but let's be honest, Rooney was on another level. Although, United failed to win the league in this time period with Chelsea running rampant, but that was about to change very soon. This takes us all the way through to the 2006 World Cup, following the 2005-06 season, and once again, England made it all the way through to the quarterfinals of the competition. However, they faced the same fate as they did in the Euros 2 years prior, being knocked out by Portugal on penalties. Although, one of the major differences between this tournament and the one 2 years prior was that Rooney wasn't nearly as prolific this time around. He had only just recovered from a broken toe beforehand and even tore his groin muscle during the tournament itself. However, he pushed on and still played, and this resulted in him going goalless throughout the entire tournament. And to make matters worse, he was sent off in the quarterfinals after initially stamping on Ricardo Carvalho and then getting into an altercation with Cristiano Ronaldo. Looking back at this moment, in hindsight, you begin to realize that this was essentially the beginning of Ronaldo pulling ahead of Rooney. By the time the next season came along, both Rooney and Ronaldo were back to full fitness and had made up for their scuffle in the World Cup. However, Ronaldo came back different. Having worked on just about every one of his shortcomings in the off-season, he was ripe and raring to go. His strength, decisiveness, finishing and team play were significantly improved. These were signified due to the fact that not only did CR7 win the Young Player of the Year award this season, but also the Premier League Player of the Season award too. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea here. Rooney was also absolutely going off this season. After all, Rooney and Ronaldo both had 25 goal contributions throughout the season, helping United reclaim the Premier League title. However, the gap in their abilities became very clear from the next season onwards. It became clear that United were looking to build the team around their Portuguese star, making him the focal point of the team's attack. This led to Rooney being forced to play second fiddle to Ronaldo and being forced onto either wing or as an inside forward on occasion. Although, to be fair, with the addition of Carlos Tevez, the front three of Ronaldo, Rooney and Tevez was extremely fluid, with each player swapping positions frequently mid-game, creating an organised chaos. This occurred over the next 2 seasons, resulting in United winning 3 Premier League titles back to back to back. I just want to clarify what I mean when I talk about playing second fiddle. More than anything, this showcased Rooney's ability to sacrifice his own personal interests for the better of the team. In doing so, he had to work harder in defense to cover for Ronaldo going forward, drop deep into the midfield to be more involved in build-up play, make dummy runs to free up space for Ronaldo and others, generally play further away from goal, and finally, not contest for dead ball opportunities like free kicks and penalties despite his proficiency in them. Rooney did all of this and more, and even taking what I've just said into consideration, his goal scoring only dropped from 14 in the previous season to 12 in each of the next 2 seasons. Adding on to that, he also missed a total of 15 games over this period due to injury. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that he still operated at an elite level despite being deployed in a supporting role rather than as the attacking focal point. Despite this, articles like this were being floated about around mid-2009. These claimed that Rooney had failed to live up to the hype that surrounded him since his explosive debut in the Premier League. Apparently, being a nailed-on starter in a team that won 3 Premier League titles, 1 League Cup and a Champions League, as well as the fact that he won a multitude of personal accolades, just wasn't enough to convince the media otherwise. Having said that, when you're being directly compared to arguably the best player to ever kick a ball in history, it quite literally never will be. By the end of the 2008-2009 season, Ronaldo made a big money move to Real Madrid, and Rooney was, rightly so, expected to make up for the goals lost in the Ronaldo sale. And, well, he not only stepped up to the plate in the 2009-2010 season, but he pretty much knocked it out the park. He was in insane form this season, settling back into his favoured centre-forward position, scoring 26 goals in 32 appearances. In his best return by some distance, he emphatically hit back at his critics. Although it wasn't all happiness and sunshine, United lost out in the league to a formidable Chelsea side by a single point. Not only that, but some would argue that the month that followed this season marks the true beginning of Rooney's decline, in terms of his public perception at least. Following this incredible season, from a personal perspective, and going into the next, Rooney reportedly started questioning the ambition of Manchester United as a club and their ability to attract top talent. It's no doubt that seeing Cristiano Ronaldo leave for Real Madrid and Manchester City absolutely destroying the transfer market led him to this thought. This led to Rooney submitting a transfer request. The fans were shocked, Sir Alex Ferguson was shocked, Manchester United was shocked, everyone was shocked. Rooney also refused to sign a contract extension for this reason. Although he gave assurance that he wasn't speaking out in search of higher wages, many were left unconvinced. This is especially considering the fact that he signed a new 5-year contract for the club only 2 days after making his claims public. What's more, his contract was said to be worth double what he was previously being paid. Strike one. Over the next 2 seasons, service more or less went on as usual as United reclaimed the Premier League title. Rooney claimed 11 goals and 11 assists this season, with one of those goals being this match winner in the Manchester derby. Now, I'm trying to think of a way to describe it, but I'm struggling to think of one. Peter, can you help me out here for a second?
Out of this world!
Cheers for that. And in the next season, despite Rooney achieving his best goal-scoring season to date, scoring 27, United ended up losing the league to City on goal difference. This prompted the purchase of Robin van Persie before the 2012-2013 season and meant that once more, Rooney would be forced to play second fiddle. Although this time, he was deployed in a deeper, more central role as a roaming 10. Despite the fact that United won the league yet again, Rooney was in the headlines for all the wrong reasons once more. At the end of the season, Ferguson stated that Rooney had submitted yet another transfer request due to lack of playing time, a claim that Rooney later refuted. Whichever version of the story is the truth, it doesn't really matter at this point. The damage was done. And seeing that Rooney signed a new £300,000 contract renewal only a few months later, made the fans even more wary of Rooney's retelling of the story. Strike two. In the years that followed, Ferguson would retire and United would enter manager roulette, shuffling through David Moyes, Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho. All the while, one of the only constants throughout this entire period was Wayne Rooney. He was even named as the United captain following the departure of Nemanja Vidic in 2014. However, to the surprise of just about everyone, Rooney endured one of the steepest physical declines in recent memory. Somewhere between 2014, where he was still only about 28, and 2016, it seemed as though his legs just weren't up to par anymore for Manchester United. This eventually led to his United exit in 2017, having spent 13 years at the club. He was only 31 years of age at the time. He later went on to return to Everton briefly and then joined DC United in the US, then returned to England as a player-manager for Derby County. This culminated in his eventual retirement from football altogether in January 2021 as he settled into life as a full-time manager. Okay, that was quite a bit of information. Let's take a short perception break. Okay, that should do it. Given all of the information laid out in this video, let's attempt to tackle the title of this video directly. So, is Wayne Rooney underrated? Yes, I believe so. There are several reasons for why I believe this to be the case, many of which I've already noted in this video, but let's summarize them real quick. He sacrificed personal glory for the good of the team on several occasions by playing in supporting roles and still putting out elite numbers. He showed his astute versatility by adapting to several positions based on the need of the team. For the most part, he flourished when given free rein to be the focal point in attack. He bullied grown men as a teenager. And finally, if you don't believe that he was anything but elite, just take a look at this man's achievements. And like I've already said, stats and awards aren't the be-all and end-all of rating players. However, with numbers like these, it's really hard to argue that they don't paint a telling picture. Also, in the interest of being balanced, let's also outline some of the reasons for why many believe him to be overrated. Some of which I actually agree with, by the way. First things first, he wasn't the main man in really any of his title-winning seasons with United. Having said that, an argument can be made for the 2010-2011 season, but even then, the team was quite balanced, with Berbatov, Chicharito and Nani all playing significant roles. Regardless, I've already addressed why I don't believe this makes him overrated. Let's not mistake his selflessness for underperformance. Next up, he underperformed for the England national team in crucial moments. This one I can agree with. I mean, it took him 3 World Cups to register his first goal ever in the competition. Other than that, apart from the 2004 Euros and World Cup and Euros qualification rounds, he didn't really deliver on the expectations laid out in his early career. His physical decline was incredibly rapid. This one I can also agree with. This was likely due to a combination of playing over 120 professional games before he even turned 20, a range of injuries which made him miss a total of 83 games over his career, as well as his often aggressive playstyle. And the fact that he didn't see the need to condition his body in the gym definitely added to his lack of longevity. Finally, he publicly spoke out against Manchester United on a few occasions and was rewarded with new contracts that doubled his wages each time. And while this is definitely a damning strike on his public image, it has nothing to do with his performances on the field, which were still very good following these debacles. Therefore, I see no reason to include this as a reason for him being overrated based on his playing ability. If we wanted to tackle his public image, that's a debate for another day. Overall, Wayne Rooney was a remarkable player. Could he have achieved more? Sure. But the same can be said for Ronaldo or Messi. Yes, his life and career has been shrouded with controversy at certain times, but in my opinion, that takes nothing away from his stellar ability on the pitch. Simply put, Rooney was, and still is, an underrated legend. And there we have it. I'd be very interested to hear all your takes on Rooney as a player. Do you think he was underrated, overrated, or rated just about right? Please feel free to leave your comments below. Now, I tried to make this video as balanced as possible, showing arguments for both sides of the video title. In case you didn't already clock this, I'm personally a huge Rooney fan and truly believe that we did not appreciate him as much as we should have during his career. For a player of his quality to willingly step back and allow others to shine for the good of the team, all while putting in an absolute shift, is something truly special. Apologies for the long video, but this is a topic that I've been sitting on for quite a while, and I really felt that it needed to be done in detail. As always, all the links to the sources used in this video, the background music and all that good stuff can be found in the description. If you like the content, please feel free to hit the like button, subscribe and turn on that bell notification for future videos, as I would greatly appreciate it. Or not, you know, free country and whatnot, no pressure. Anyway, that's all from me. Trust you're all having an incredible day. Cheers, and I'll catch you on the next one.